Hi, welcome back to another episode of Tim Two Wheels Garage. Have you ever wondered what it would take to upgrade the passenger foot pegs on a GS? Well, today I'm going to show you what my solution was to this. So my wife and I do a lot of two-up riding, and she was never quite happy with the OEM foot pegs that came on the BMW GS. This is one I have. This is actually off the right side of the bike. And I think the biggest issue was the width here, the narrowness. It put all the pressure in one spot on her foot, and during longer rides it became uncomfortable. So I searched and couldn't find a whole lot of options for the passenger. There's a ton of options available for the rider foot pegs. You can get them in all shapes and sizes, widths, everything you want. But there wasn't a whole lot of options available to replace these passenger pegs. So I came across these Puig Enduro foot pegs. Comparing the two, you can see the difference in the width here. The OEM foot peg is much narrower than the Puig foot peg. They're about the same length from end to end, but definitely much wider. The Puig foot peg is got an interesting design. First of all, this is the silver version, obviously, and they come in many different colors. So if you want to buy some to match the color of your bike, you can. And they're a very nice CNC machined finish, and the rubber insert here will actually come out if you're going to be doing more off-road, even with a pillion, and that allows you to have a very rugged off-road foot peg that would give the boot much grip. Now, the other interesting thing about the Puig foot peg is this is the same foot peg that will fit any bike, okay? Rider, passenger, whatever. The difference is this little black section here, the adapter. So you buy the foot pegs, and then you have to buy the appropriate adapter for your bike and riding position. So if you want them for the rider pegs or the passenger pegs, it's a different kit here. So it's all held on by one hex head bolt that goes right up here through the center of the peg, and then bolts in and locks the adapter up nice and tight. Additionally, maybe hard to see on the camera, but there are adjustment marks here, and there's a little arrow down here. So you can loosen that bolt, and then you can pivot the peg to where you want it. So it's not adjustable up and down, but it is adjustable in this manner to fit the position of the rider or the passenger, and making it more comfortable. So although it's not hard to change pegs, I am going to run through that very quickly and show you what it takes to swap out the foot pegs and what these look like on the bike. And there was one minor modification that I needed to do in order to get these to work properly on my bike. Alright, so getting in here a little closer so that you can see, the passenger foot peg is held on by a single pin that goes right down through the bottom and is held on with a bit of a little C-clip underneath. So I have an insert of a video here, but what we want to do is get down under here, and using a pick, a small pick tool such as this makes it really easy. You just spin the clip around, as you should be able to see from underneath, trying not to block that view, and just press the clip off, and it comes off just like that. So this is what the little C-clip will look like. So let's put that aside so we don't lose it. And then just simply by pressing underneath on that pin and then pulling up from the top, the pin comes out just like that. And then we can remove the foot peg. Now you'll see that the pin has a bit of a recess right here on the edge, and that's what allows that C-clip to insert in there and to lock into place. So with it on the bike, it's going to look just like that. Okay, so before we put the new Puig foot pegs on the bike, I just wanted to show you a little closer what this adapter system looks like. So essentially, you have your foot peg, you buy that, and then you buy the appropriate adapter. So this is what the adapter looks like. It's an anodized aluminum, has these marks along the top, and it comes with a hex head bolt that goes in here, and this is a 6mm. So what we do is, insert the adapter into the foot peg, and then drop the hex head bolt down from the inside, and then I'm using a 6mm Allen wrench, and then you just simply tighten that up. And we'll get it snug, and then once we have it on the bike, we'll be able to fit the alignment appropriately. Now each one of these does have a part number on here. Not sure if you can see that on there, but it happens to say TP-10L. So this is for the left, the other one has a 10R on it. The reason it makes a difference is because you'll notice on this side you have your main hole that the pin goes through, but then on the bottom only you'll have this partially drilled hole, and that's to hold the spring and the detent ball. If you notice, it's not on the top, so that's why it makes a difference left and right. And there's a few more pieces that are required to mount this. So in the kit with the foot peg or the adapters, you'll have this little bracket that's kind of got a U shape to it, these little ears. I'll show you how that goes on here in just a moment. You'll have a spring and the detent ball, and that's to allow the foot pegs to lock in the up position as opposed to just flopping around. Now, one note that on my particular set, I did have to cut about 3.5 coils off of this little spring because the spring was too long. And what do I mean by too long? Well, you put the spring in this little detent hole, okay? And then the ball sets on top of that. And by the spring was too long, if you notice when you press this down, the spring was bottoming out and the ball was not able to seat in far enough to allow it to mate up to this little clip. So with the clip, again with the ears, the tabs pointing down and the wide part in, it should fit perfectly on that lower tab or the lower portion of that mount. On the foot peg, we want to take the spring, and in my case again I had to trim this because it was too long, and go ahead and insert it into that partial hole, not the main mounting hole but the small hole behind it. Then the little detent ball will go in, and if you'll see these two little holes here, those are the two locking positions. Now if you have to trim your spring, you don't want to trim too much of it off. Take a little bit off, see if it fits, and then try it. So I'm holding the little ball here. Of course, my hand's in the way. And I'm pressing down on the ball underneath and then sliding it right in. And the ball, I heard it go into its detent. So now what I'm going to do is take the mounting pin, push it back in the top, line up the pin. That slides all the way through, and now our pin is in there. Now I do not have the half moon clip, the C-clip underneath it yet, so that's what we need to do now. I'm going to try to get a good angle here. So taking the C-clip, I'm pushing it underneath here into that detent, and I'll take some needle nose pliers and lock it back into place just like so. And hopefully from down here you can see that. So that's on, and now you'll notice that the foot pegs lock out and then they lock in place. So when you're riding solo, you don't have to worry about the foot peg falling down. Now, one thing from this angle, you'll notice that the foot pegs, since they're considerably wider than the OEM foot peg, they do extend back beyond the heel guard here on the back side. Now on this left side it's not a problem, but on the right side it does come close to your exhaust, but it does not hit it, and I'll show you what that looks like on the other side. Now here, looking at the right side of the bike, on the foot peg, as you close it, you can see that it gets very close over here to the exhaust, but it doesn't actually touch it. Now on this particular one, if I press in, it will touch, but in just its normal position, there's a very slight gap. So I think you'll agree that that was a fairly simple installation. It's a piece of cake to install once you learn that you might have to trim that spring a bit in order to get the detent in there. Now I don't know if that's going to be the case with every other bike, but it was with mine, so I just wanted to show you that just in case you run into that same issue. My wife and I have been able to put about 800 miles on the bike since we got these foot pegs, and I'm happy to report that she's very happy with them. She says they're far more comfortable than the OEM foot pegs, and she's just thrilled with them. And of course, she's happy, which makes me happy. So, especially on a long trip. There's not really a whole lot else to say. Again, they come in multiple colors. Make sure you get the right adapter kit, and I'll put in the description below the Puig part numbers that I used for this, and I'll throw in some links to some sources for them as well. They've held up well. Haven't had any trouble with them vibrating loose or coming loose or at all. They're super tight. They seem to be very strong and durable. Overall, I think it's a good product. If you're looking for better foot pegs for your passenger on a BMW GS or GS Adventure, then I highly recommend that you check these out. So I hope this video was helpful. As always, thanks for watching. This is Tim 2 Wheels, and that's how I did it.